Before you turn off the video, let me tell you something a little personal. A couple of years ago, I remember standing in the middle of my living room surrounded by piles of stuff, half-finished craft projects, boxes of old photos, random kitchen gadgets that I swear I never even bought, and I just froze. I felt completely buried by it, like no matter how much I tried to clean, the house never actually looked or felt better. It drained my energy, it made me feel older than I was, and honestly, it made me avoid inviting friends over. If you've ever had that pit in your stomach feeling when you look around your own home, I get it. I was there. And that's why what I'm about to share can make such a difference. Because if it worked for me, it can absolutely work for you too. Now imagine this. What if I told you your entire home could feel brand new in just 48 hours? Not months, not years of trying and giving up, but one weekend. I know it sounds almost impossible, but stick with me here, because the very last step is the one that makes sure you don't fall back into the same old mess again. And that one step is what really changes everything. You know how most of us approach clutter? We walk into a room, start picking up one thing at a time, and before you know it, we're knee-deep in a maybe pile that just keeps growing. That's why I want to start with the first little trick in this whole system, and honestly, it's the one that flips everything on its head. It's called the 5-second mercy rule. Here's how it works. You pick up an item, you give yourself exactly 5 seconds to decide. Keep it, donate it, or toss it. That's it. No fourth pile, no hemming and hawing. Gut instincts are usually right, and you know what happens when you overthink. You end up keeping the extra bread maker just in case. You suddenly open a bakery at age 70, but here's the part most people miss. You've got to be ready for those decisions in the moment. So before you even start, place a trash bag and a donation bag right next to you. That way, every choice has an action. You decide, you drop it, you move on. You're not piling up new piles that will sit there for weeks. And trust me, the sense of relief you feel when you hear that bag fill up, it's like a weight coming off your shoulders. Now, before I go further, let me ask, where are you watching from? I always love knowing because it makes me picture us sitting down together with a cup of tea and comparing notes on which drawer drives us the craziest. And while you're here, don't forget, because I promise the rest of this video is going to be full of the kind of shortcuts you wish someone told you years ago. Okay, back to our system. Once you've got the 5-second rule in play, you'll notice your energy start to build. But we both know not all clutter is equal. Some things we use every day, some things we're attached to emotionally, and then there's the mountain of everything else. That's why the legacy box system is so powerful. You grab 3 boxes for every room you're working in. The first box is daily use, things you reach for all the time. The second is legacy or sentimental items. But, and this is important, legacy items can only take up about 20% of the box. That limit keeps you honest. The third box is for everything else. Here's the beauty of it. You're still respecting your emotions because you're not tossing every single memory into the bin, but you're also not drowning your life in old souvenirs. And here's a shortcut. If something tugs at your heart but doesn't make the cut, just take a quick photo. That way, the memory stays with you without the clutter. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds good, but how do I keep up the pace without burning out? That's where the room rotation technique comes in. You don't spend the whole weekend chained to one room. You give yourself 4-hour focused blocks per room with breaks built in. Bedroom, living room, kitchen, bathrooms, garage, whatever order makes sense for you. At the end of each block, give yourself 10 minutes to tidy what you just did so it feels finished. That way, when you leave the room, it already looks like a win. That little mental boost is what carries you to the next space. But let me warn you, if you skip this, you'll fall into the trap of the endless half-done project. You know the look. A bedroom with piles of laundry still on the chair, a kitchen counter half cleared but still stacked with mugs. That's discouraging. When you end with a tidy sweep, you can actually feel the progress. It's the difference between sighing and smiling when you step back. And sometimes you don't even need 4 hours. That's where my favorite energizer comes in, the 15-minute tornado. You literally set a timer for 15 minutes, pick one drawer, one shelf, one corner, and just go at it using the 5-second rule. When the timer goes off, you stop, no exceptions. And here's why that's magic. You create little victories without getting trapped in a marathon. The common mistake people make is saying, "Oh, I'll just keep going." Don't do that. Respect the limit because that's what keeps it motivating instead of draining. Here's the part most people don't realize. Momentum beats effort. A short burst, a small win, those stack up, and suddenly the whole weekend doesn't feel like drudgery. It feels like a challenge you're actually winning. Think of it like quick sprints instead of one never-ending walk uphill. Now, I want you to picture this. You walk into that one room that always makes your heart sink. Maybe it's the garage. Maybe it's the guest room with boxes stacked to the ceiling. 48 hours later, you open the door, and instead of chaos, you see clear surfaces, order, space to breathe. That's the transformation we're working toward. And it starts with these little shifts that keep your energy up, instead of the old method of dragging it out for weeks until you're too tired to care. But we're not stopping there, because here's the truth. The biggest roadblock in decluttering isn't the junk drawer or the extra mugs. It's the sentimental stuff. That's where most people get stuck. And that's exactly what we're going to tackle next, with some tricks that finally make it painless to let go without losing your memories. So here's the thing. Once you've built up momentum with the 5-second rule and those quick tornado sessions, you suddenly feel like you've got some breathing room. But then comes the tricky part, actually tackling full rooms and making sure the progress sticks. And let me tell you, this is where most people either stall out or talk themselves into doing just a little bit tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes, right? That's why this whole 48-hour system is about steady wins, not overwhelming yourself. Think about it like this. You've just finished a 4-hour session in the bedroom, and the laundry chair, that one you've been tossing clothes on for months, is finally clear. You've swept up the dust bunnies, folded what you're keeping, and stuffed the rest into the donation bag. When you walk out and close that door, you don't want to feel like the job is half done. That's why that 10-minute tidy at the end of each rotation matters so much. It closes the loop. And trust me, that simple closure keeps you from waking up the next day dreading the mess. Instead, you get this little hit of satisfaction. It's addictive in the best way. But here's the part most people miss. The system isn't just about finishing one room. It's about pacing yourself so you don't crash. When you rotate, bedroom, living room, kitchen, bathrooms, garage, you give yourself permission to move forward, even if the first room isn't perfect. Perfection is a trap, and honestly, nobody is grading you on whether your socks are rolled like sushi. What matters is that you're breaking the cycle of chaos and replacing it with function. Now, I've got to tell you about a little trick that feels silly, but works like magic: the laundry basket sweep. You just grab one basket, walk around a room, toss in everything that doesn't belong there, and then take 5 minutes to redistribute. It sounds too simple to matter, but when you're knee-deep in the process, it keeps you moving instead of getting stuck on one random candle that somehow migrated to the bathroom. And if you've ever stopped to debate where a single screwdriver should live, you know exactly what I mean. Speaking of getting stuck, let's talk about the dreaded "what if I need it" excuse. Oh boy, this one gets everybody. You know when you pick up the third cutting board and think, well, maybe if I host a giant party with 30 people, I'll need this. But the truth, that party isn't coming, and if it does, you'll borrow one or improvise. This is where trusting your instinct, what I call the wisdom advantage, comes in. Decades of life experience have already trained you to know what you actually use and what's just been gathering dust. 9 times out of 10, your first thought is the right one. And let's be honest, the fear of needing something later almost never happens. How many times have you regretted letting go of an extra set of mismatched Tupperware lids? Exactly. Peace in your space is worth far more than a just-in-case moment that never arrives. Now, don't underestimate the power of the 15-minute tornado either. Remember, it's not about emptying an entire room in one go. It's about conditioning yourself to make fast decisions. A drawer here, a shelf there. When you do that 3 or 4 times across a weekend, you'll be stunned at how quickly the house starts looking different. And you know what's funny? Sometimes the smaller wins are even more satisfying than the big ones. Clearing one chaotic drawer where you could never find the scissors feels like a triumph, almost like finding a $20 bill in an old coat pocket. But here's where it gets even better. You can build these sprints into your day, even after the 48-hour overhaul. You've got a spare quarter hour before dinner? boom, a tornado clears that bathroom counter that's been driving you nuts. And when you repeat that often enough, clutter doesn't even get a chance to pile up. Here's a curiosity gap for you. Most people think the hardest part of decluttering is letting go of sentimental stuff. But actually, the biggest trap is creating maybe piles. Once you start a maybe pile, it grows like weeds. Suddenly, half your items are maybe. That's why the 5-second rule and the box system are non-negotiable. They stop the weeds before they take over. I want to share something else that really helps: visualization. This is a little sneak peek into what we'll cover deeper in a moment, but even during the fast wins, you can use it. Picture yourself walking into the room a year from now. Do you see a peaceful, clear surface or another avalanche of knickknacks? Ask yourself, will my future self thank me for keeping this? And if the answer isn't a solid yes, out it goes. Let me throw a quick engagement question your way. Do you already use any of these tricks, or is this completely new to you? I love hearing whether people already have their own system, or if this feels like a fresh start. And since we're right about the halfway point of this journey, let me slip in a gentle nudge. If you're finding this helpful, don't forget, it really does help, and it tells me to keep sharing more of these time-saving systems that make life at home easier. Now, let's circle back for a second. Imagine you're in the kitchen. It's one of the hardest rooms to tackle because it's filled with duplicates. 2 blenders, a dozen coffee mugs, 20 spatulas. You stand there thinking, well, they're all useful. But then you remember, you only ever use 1 or 2. That's where the mercy rule saves you. 5 seconds, decide, drop it. No keeping a third colander just because it was on sale in 1989. And I'll tell you something funny. When you set up a donation station and actually see the pile grow, it becomes weirdly satisfying. It's like a trophy wall of bad shopping decisions. That sweater you never wore, those gadgets that promised to change your life and ended up in a cupboard, you look at that pile and think, good riddance. It turns frustration into motivation. Here's another mini hook for you. The secret isn't what you keep, it's how fast you decide what to let go. That speed is what makes the 48-hour system work. By the end of day 1, after using these fast win methods, you'll already feel a shift. Surfaces are clearer, rooms look less crowded, and you've got that sense of momentum carrying you forward. And that sets you up for the next big challenge, which is the emotional side of clutter. Because let's be real, objects tied to memories are where we all hesitate. And yet, there are ways to handle them with care, without keeping every dusty box in the garage. That's exactly where we're heading next. So here's where things get real. Up until now, it's been about momentum, fast decisions, room rotations, little tornadoes of progress. But if you've ever tried decluttering before, you know the moment that stops you in your tracks. The sentimental stuff. Old birthday cards, grandma's china, the baby shoes from when your kids were tiny. These are the things that turn a quick session into hours of sitting on the floor, flipping through memories. And that's why most people never finish. They get stuck here. But the good news? There's a way through it that actually feels good. Let's start with something I like to call future self-visualization. I know it sounds a little fancy, but trust me, it's just a simple mental trick. Picture yourself a year from now, walking into your home. The counters are clear, the closets have space, and you don't trip over boxes every time you open the garage. Now ask yourself, will my future self thank me for keeping this stack of 25 old mugs? Probably not. Will they thank me for keeping 1 or 2 that really mean something? Absolutely. And if it helps, write it down. Grab a sticky note, scribble, "Future me loves clear counters," and slap it right on the wall where you're working. It sounds silly, but every time you glance at it, you remind yourself who you're doing this for. But here's the part most people miss. You've already lived those memories. The people, the moments, the laughs around the dinner table, they're in you, not in that box. And when you give yourself permission to keep just the best 1 or 2 items from each category, you're not erasing anything. You're honoring it. Think about it. Do you really need 47 mugs from different trips, or will 2 favorites do the job? I once caught myself explaining to my imaginary future me why I was holding on to a bread maker I hadn't touched in 15 years. Let's just say the conversation did not go in my favor. That brings me to what I call the wisdom advantage. You've got decades of experience behind you, and that instinct you feel when you pick something up? That's wisdom. You already know if it's worth keeping. The doubt, the maybe, that's clutter talking. And let's be honest, all those just-in-case scenarios we come up with rarely happen. How many times have you actually gone digging for that third potato peeler? Almost never. Meanwhile, every time you walk into a room that's clear and simple, you feel calmer. Peace is always more valuable than an item you might, maybe, possibly need one day. Here's a mini hook for you. The memories aren't in the stuff, they're in you. That shift alone is what makes decluttering stick. Now, here's a little trick that works wonders: the memory preservation method. Instead of keeping boxes and boxes of old photos, kids' art projects, or souvenirs, choose the top 1 or 2 items that truly matter. Keep those and take photos of the rest. With phones today, it's ridiculously easy. Make a memory box album in your photo app, and suddenly you've got everything accessible without losing an inch of space in your closet. And here's a bonus: you'll actually look at those digital memories more often than you ever did with dusty boxes shoved under the bed. I can't tell you how freeing it feels when you realize you don't have to hang on to every scrap of paper or knickknack to hold on to the love that came with it. I once scanned a stack of old family letters, and then I let the paper go. At first I felt guilty, but then one evening I sat on the couch scrolling through those scans on my tablet, and I realized I was smiling more than I ever had when those letters were hidden in a shoebox. That's the power of this method. And here's where the curiosity builds. You might be thinking, all right, but what happens when my family gets involved? What if they want to keep everything I'm trying to give away? Oh, that's a big one, and I'll tell you exactly how to handle it in just a moment. But before we go there, let's wrap up this emotional toolkit with one last piece of wisdom. You are allowed to choose peace. Every single item you let go of makes room for breathing, for laughter, for actual life to happen in your home again. And isn't that the whole point? Now let's shift gears into making sure this new clarity actually lasts. Because what good is a 48-hour transformation if it all creeps back in? That's why the donation station strategy is so key. Pick one spot in your house, the garage, a spare room, even just a visible corner, and designate it as the place where every donation-bound item goes. Keep it visible. Watching that pile grow is motivating. It's like proof that you're making progress. And if you really want to streamline, label the bags in advance: clothes, books, household. It makes drop-off a breeze. No more sorting at the last second in a parking lot. But here's the part most people miss. The donation station isn't just about getting rid of things. It's about creating accountability. When you see that pile sitting there, you can't ignore it. And it prevents the sneaky habit of tossing things back into circulation. Once it's in the pile, it's on its way out, which brings us straight to the family involvement protocol. Oh yes, the family part. If you've ever had someone dig something out of your donate bag and say, "But we might need this someday," then you know exactly what I mean. Here's how you stop that cycle. Set the rule up front. Tell everyone in advance: no rescuing items, no vetoing your decisions. If they want something, they've got 1 week after you're done to claim it. After that, it's gone. Put the deadline right on a sticky note at the donation station where everyone can see it. That way, it's not up for debate. Visual accountability is powerful. And let me just add a little humor here. Sometimes the real drama in decluttering isn't what you let go of yourself. It's the arguments over who gets grandma's china. But when you set clear boundaries, you stop those endless debates. It's your home, your peace, your decision. Now, once you've done all this, it's time for what I call the victory lap celebration. Don't skip this part. After 48 hours, stop, take after photos of your rooms, write a quick note about how you feel, and then enjoy your new space in a special way. Maybe you sit down in your clear living room with a cup of tea. Maybe you invite a friend over without that little voice in your head apologizing for the mess. Anchor this moment with something that feels rewarding. Here's the part most people don't think of. Print one of your before photos and tape it inside a cabinet or closet. Every time you open it, you'll see the reminder of how far you've come. It's like a secret pat on the back that keeps you from sliding back into old habits. And here's a curiosity teaser for you. Now that your house is clear, the next step is organizing it for good. That's a whole other adventure, and trust me, it's one you'll want to hear about. Because once you've made space, the way you arrange it can either keep you free or send you straight back into chaos. But that's a story for another video. So take a breath, look around. In just 48 hours, you've gone from drowning in clutter to creating a home that finally works for you right now. No dragging it out for months, no endless maybes, just clarity, calm, and space to breathe. And if I could do it, standing once in the middle of a living room that felt more like a storage unit than a home, then I promise, you can too.